75% of people who responded said they thought it hindered innovation.
It's so ambiguous. What is the spirit of the competition? What is abusing the technical regulations?
If this rule existed back in 2016, you would not have alerts. That alerts would not exist with this rule now.
Yeah.
And it's very confusing because you need to always follow the spirit of the competition, but you are sort of protected of the benefit of the doubt.
Feels like a catch-all honesty clause.
Isn't that the whole point?
Yeah.
Like, to abuse the tech regs to give yourself an advantage.
Hello and welcome to Off the Track. Joining me today, we've got Peter.
Hello.
Matt.
Hey.
And we've also got virtually João.
Hello.
And today we're here to discuss the spirit of the competition rule. So this is a rule that was implemented a few years ago. And for those who aren't aware, teams are expected to act in the spirit of the competition both before and during the World Finals. Any team deemed by the chair of judges to be acting outside the spirit of the competition can be removed from certain or all aspects of the competition. For example, a team attempting to abuse the technical regulations to their advantage may, at the discretion of the chair of judges, be removed from racing and receive no points for this activity. A team deemed to be acting in an unsportsmanlike manner towards another team or other persons may be removed from some or all judging areas. The spirit of the competition is simple. Embrace and respect the rules and regulations. Do your very best to complete legally and fairly while contributing positively to F1 in Schools World Finals. Make friends, create positive relationships, network professionally, and enjoy yourselves. That's the definition that we're given in the regulations. So firstly, can I take the temperature on this rule? What are our initial thoughts? João, start with you.
So I think it's a rule that has been introduced in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, and it adds a lot of value to the regulation at all, because it is a way that you can try to avoid some not great things in the competition at all, as it said. But it also makes like a lot of power to the chair judges, so they can. You can try to do something that is innovating in your car, and if it's not intended by the judges, they can stop you from that. So this encourages you to try to make the new stuff. So he has have a great side and a bad side. So I don't think I think is a good thing, but in the way that it's written can be a little bit vague. So if you were a little bit more specific, I think it will be better. So but. At the end isn't the worst thing, but it's something that has a value in the rule book.
Yeah. So you're saying that it could add value, but at the moment it's a bit broad. Matt, would you agree with that, or?
Yeah. So I'm a current competitor with Constellation, so I'm kind of forcing myself to see both sides. I can see the underlying purpose, which is just ensuring there's parity between all the teams, like a fair level playing ground. And I've forced myself to see some pros to it, in that it kind of prevents blatant cheating. And it's this nagging thing in the background that says this is a fun competition. You're not meant to be obliterating other people. You're not making enemies. But at the same time, it's, as João said, it's so ambiguous. What is the spirit of the competition? What is abusing the technical regulations? There's so many questions that it throws up, and then teams, when they're trying to interpret it, really struggle with getting an idea, an innovation, and going, this is innovative, but it's not abusing the technical regulations.
Yeah.
I think because it's so vague, probably intentionally, but it's so all-encompassing that you don't know where the line is between, what can you do and what can't you do? What is pushing the boundary? What is going to land you in hot water with this rule? I think you don't know.
I think if we look back at 2016 World Finals, Infinitude we probably would have landed in hot water with our LURS
Definitely.
system.
I don't think if this rule existed back in 2016, you would not have alerts. That alerts would not exist with this rule
Yeah.
now because it just wouldn't have been allowed.
Yeah.
Because that wouldn't have been the spirit of the competition.
Yeah.
But if you think about what alerts was, that was probably the biggest sort of innovation in the competition at the time. I don't think there's been as big of an innovation since then.
And I think it's one of the most effective, I suppose, pushes against the technical regulations. When you think about it, they were really pushing the envelope in, was it 2014 when they first tried it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pushing the envelope of the technical regulations, but it was just such a gain for them in terms of performance that it was well justified. And it, to such an extent that they eventually included it in the rules for the next season. So I suppose, do we think that would have been discouraged by this rule back in 2014? I'd say probably yes.
Yeah, it's just not. It wouldn't have allowed that innovation to have happened. As for why LURS was banned, yes, it was on safety grounds, and that makes complete sense.
Yes.
But that's not what the spirit of the competition is for. There is already, I think, there's already a safety rule.
Yes. There is.
But it's spirit of the competition. It's stopping the innovation from happening in the first place.
Yeah. Have you seen any positive impacts, do you think, for spirit of the competition, João or Matt?
I personally, as a team, we've come up with a whole heap of innovations, ideas, things that we want to try for the World Finals coming up.
Yeah.
Varying in complexity, varying in ambiguity. With regards to spirit of the competition. Some are very slight grey areas. Some are big grey areas. I'm not going to disclose what they are because that would be advantageous. But there's definitely places where we've hit that spirit of the comp and gone, will we get this through spirit of the comp? Will this break that rule? Is it worth 220 points of racing to try and get this through and argue?
Yeah.
And a lot of the time we've kind of put it on a back burner and said, no, we don't think this is worth it.
Yeah, and I think some would argue that the rules are there to be broken, or you've just crossed that and put bent.
Yeah. I feel like blatant breaking of rules is...
Not blatant breaking of rules, but finding loopholes,
yes.
I think is the way. Grey areas, yeah. Like finding loopholes, that's where you're pushing the envelope.
That's innovation.
And that is innovation. But with the spirit of the competition rule, it wouldn't really allow you to do that. If you find a loophole, is the spirit of the competition rule going to allow that? I don't think so.
It feels like a catch-all honesty clause. When laws are being made, sometimes they put in that, a person needs to honestly believe that they are doing the right thing. And so they can be caught perjuring themselves if they can prove that they weren't honest in that intention. And it's kind of if you have any intent to break that law whatsoever, you'll be caught by it, whether what you did was technically against the law or not, because you weren't honest about it. And I feel like that's what's trying to happen here with the spirit of the competition. And I suppose some of the listener viewpoints we've had is that it's a cool way to instruct and a bad way to innovate. João, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think something that isn't. When I first read the spirit of the competition rules, I immediately associated with the competition regulation, not the technical one, because I think it's more of a safeguard of the judges, because when they write the rules, there is a lot of things like a 40-page document, and if they miss something in the race procedures, something that is procedural, so you need to do this and it's missed, and something try to get advantage of this small thing in the competition ones, like in the verbal, in the portfolios, not in the cars. Well, I think it's a safeguard for the chair of judges to use. So this is a thing that is I personally think is good, because the competition is intended to run in a certain way, and if by any means something isn't exactly written in the rules, but is like understood. It's, I don't know, it isn't that clear, but it's common sense. I think it's protecting the rules from like doing things as should do. So at each race, 2 cars go in the track, and if something isn't that explicitly clear in the rules, this is a thing that say, okay, but the spirit of competition says, okay, we need to have those 2 cars racing all the time, so 2 teams respecting each other. So it's a rules that allow to keep the fluid thing. So it gives the judges a power to keep the competition in a flow, but it also it hinders the innovation, as you said, because it also goes to the technical regulations, and it's very confusing. So it has these good parts, and the technical ones. The innovation, it also helps like to make the cars. You say you don't try to. It helps not it difficult is how to you go to innovate in new areas of the car, but it focuses the competition to try to innovate in the small things that we have, like the wings need to be this big and this big. You cannot change that much, so how you can innovate in this area? So it forces you to think in a small area. So I think it has some good point, but also, as I said, it can make things difficult.
You think it's forcing people to innovate more within the rules, to look within the rules themselves to innovate, and not try and I suppose lawyer the document so that they can find innovations like the lures and things like that.
So we asked on our Instagram, what do you think about the spirit of the competition rule? 75% of people who responded said they thought it hindered innovation, and that's a large.
A lot of people.
That's a lot of people who think that. And then the responses we got as well. It's a lot of people saying a lot of the ambiguity in the rule restricts teams from pushing the boundaries of the comp. Someone else said it's frustrating but understandable. Another person said, I've always loved to innovate on the car. This rule may cut off some creative designs like the lures did. It's understandable F1 wants the car as close as possible to look like F1, but it's not fair as well, as F1 in schools is a competition that stimulates innovative thinking all the time. And I think it's, people they just don't know where the boundaries are. Teams don't know where the boundaries are. They don't know how far they can push the rules. And I think that is kind of hindering innovation a little bit.
I suppose it is. One of the comments we got is that teams can show innovation without putting it on the car. You don't have to innovate on the car. There's lots of areas open for competition, and project management is certainly one of those. It's a new area of the competition that hasn't been explored in great detail yet, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what the competition can come up with in terms of project management. But
someone else said, needs to be changed to allow pushing the rules to the absolute limit, finding loopholes again. I think, look, HQ, they are quite, that if you ask them a question, they will tell you if it is within the bounds of it or not.
I think that needs to be made a bit more explicit, to be honest. Because, I don't know, Matt, do you feel you could approach HQ with a query about something?
I feel like I've thought about it. I've talked to the team about it. The consensus has been that maybe it's not the best idea. I think what we've maybe mistakenly taken is that if we ask them a question, they have to announce the answer to everyone to make it fair. I'm not sure if that's true or not.
So, sometimes, because they do have like a public clarification board. But I mean, if they say no, then there's no real, I don't know.
But if they said yes to an example, like if you were innovating to the extent that Lurs was, if you had have gone to HQ with Lurs and said, can we use this? Then they publicly announced it. There goes your innovation, there goes your advantage.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so if we were looking at how to fix the issues that we see in the spirit of the competition, and it's clear that 75% of our viewers agree with that to varying extent, would a more confidential process with HQ be something that people would see as beneficial?
I think so. Because you're not really making your idea public if you do that. because that is, if it's going to give you more points and possibly give you a higher rank, then you don't really want to disclose that to other teams.
Exactly, and I don't think that it would be kind of an insider trading type of deal, because everyone is on the same level playing field with this. You're looking at the same rule book that I am, that Matt is, that João is. I don't know, Matt, do you have anything on that?
Not really. I think if there was a more kind of confidential system of accessing directly HQ, that would be nice to be able to go through. Because what we thought at one point was maybe we could go through our ICC, contact the head of the national organization and see what they thought. Maybe they take it to HQ instead. But we didn't end up doing that. I don't remember why.
Yeah.
But that could be another route. It's just more steps.
João, what do you think? Do you think that a more, I suppose, direct, maybe confidential route to HQ for teams competing at Worlds would be a solution to some of the ambiguity that we see?
Yes, I think it's a very great line of thought. Like while Matt was talking, I grabbed the technical regulations for last World Finals, and is the text clarification topic. It said that if the F1 schools HQ thinks that the question received is deemed to be about the text, the words that are written, they need to publish. So if I think the way that it's written, you can interpret it as okay. So if you ask a question about a text and HQ understand that the text is a little bit confusing, they will publish something. But if you ask them a question about, is this legal? Not legal, because if you find an innovation in a loophole of the rules, it is a technical legal. So if you ask them, I'm not asking them if it is legal. I'm asking, it is in the spirit of competition, and they will say yes or no. So I present the entire idea. So I don't think, even in the rules as it written right now, they need to show to everyone. So we are just consulting. So am I in the spirit of competition? If they say yes, okay, I will push forward. They say no, okay, so I will back off. So I think they don't necessarily need to show this to everyone. I think what is explicitly written is that they need to clarify the texting. So if it's an ambiguous technical regulation, they will publish this to everyone because it's a mistake. But if it isn't a mistake, I don't see why they will need to publish to everyone. So it's your interpretation of the rules. You show them your final project, your innovation, and see, okay, is this in the boundaries of the rules that you guys understand of the rules? If they say yes, okay. If they say no, it doesn't. And just to add a little bit, that another thing that makes this topic a little bit more confusing is the benefit of the doubt. That is a topic that's come one topic before the spirit of the competition, and it's very confusing because you need to always follow the spirit of the competition, but you are sort of protected of the benefit of the doubt. So where is this boundary? So it's very confusing. You as a competitor, you say, okay, where I can push, where is the limit between the benefit of the doubt? Okay, I think that is right, or I think that this isn't, and I'm breaching the spirit of competition.
I think you raised a pretty important distinction there between correcting the text and whether something's illegal or not, because I think it is important that the rules are stated fairly unambiguously, especially given the international nature of the competition.
100%.
For a majority of the countries that participate in F1 in schools, English is not their first language.
No.
And so I think it may be that HQ definitely needs to provide clarifications to the text, which could hinder the confidential aspect. But maybe they need to have a separate stream that is querying whether something is in the spirit of the competition. And I suppose their response may be that if you have to query whether something is in the spirit of the competition, is it even in the spirit of the competition to begin with?
But then again, it's going to hinder it's going to hinder innovation if teams can't find out where the limit is. Well, then cars are never going to improve.
And there's also cultural differences to consider.
Yeah, definitely.
Because what is acceptable in one country may be, not favoured or highly unacceptable in another. And so I think that they maybe need to open themselves up a bit more.
Possibly.
Yeah, possibly.
We also asked on our Instagram about do you think the competition has peaked, which is kind of similar to that. And the responses we got are one of them, car design and point scoring have become more formulaic. Top teams in their cars are now quite similar.
Yeah.
And another one that's similar to this, actually by Matt, it hasn't peaked because spirit of the comp is blocking new innovations. Students will keep coming up with new innovations and then get thrown by spirit of the comp, and that will throttle progress. Do you want to speak a bit more about that? Do you think you can improve upon last year's or previous World Finals cars if you've got this rule standing in your way?
I think if there wasn't spirit of the comp in, for example, let's take Hydra. I think from conversations I've had with them, they've had some ideas that probably would have made their car a lot faster, but they didn't want to push spirit of the comp. So they've gone with a very safe, very fast, but very safe car that just optimized everything in the tech regs to make the fastest car by the books, rather than find a loophole and make a faster car. So in that sense, without spirit of the comp, because technology is always moving forwards.
Yeah.
So I don't think there will be a peak if there isn't spirit of the comp. But with spirit of the comp, the regs aren't keeping they aren't keeping pace with technology. You're kind of being left behind back in, it was introduced in 2019.
Yeah.
So you're kind of being left, you're being cut off because the new things that are coming out that are innovative are not included as quickly in the regs as like you would want them to be.
As LERS was. LERS was a year-on-year addition.
Yeah.
And also, I think you raised a good point there, as the rules have been pretty stagnant. The regulations have been, from what I've seen, a bit stagnant. They haven't changed a whole lot. And I feel like the global pandemic might have had a bit of an impact on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I know everyone's felt it, the strain of it. But maybe the regulations need a bit of a shake-up. I'll be the first to admit I have no idea how HQ could manage that. So it's kind of talking about things that I wouldn't know what to do with. But
I mean, there's another comment here that says, it's peaked engineering wise, but without major reg changes, car designs are becoming more similar.
Yeah,
which I think is true because they all do look very similar now.
Similar. Yeah.
There's no one's really coming up with unique car designs that are actually gonna give you a faster time.
I think the biggest innovation we saw at the last Worlds was maybe the magnetic wings. And that was handed to teams by Gary at the World Finals prior to that. And I don't think we saw that many teams take it up.
But I don't think that offered a performance advantage. That was just so they didn't break, as far as I'm aware.
But that's still important consideration. Performance isn't the be all end all of your car. If you're running, sub 1 second times, but when you get to the end of the track, your car breaks to pieces, it's going to stop running sub-second times pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And you're going to rack up probably breakage points pretty quickly as well. But it's just, I feel like the rules are a bit stagnant, and we might see in the next season that they get invigorated. But yeah, there's so much innovation to be had on the enterprise side.
100%.
And I don't think you need to get anywhere near spirit of the competition.
So spirit of the competition is really just engineering, right? It's not really hindering enterprise.
No, because
there are less rules for enterprise from what I've seen.
Yeah.
Engineering is very formulaic in designing a car. Enterprise, pretty free throwing.
Because you're not going to try and find loopholes for enterprise, right?
No.
It's really just going to be for engineering.
Yeah.
And you don't generally gain an advantage from enterprise loopholes. The only enterprise loophole I could think of that you would gain an advantage from was finding a way around the pit display packing regulations. That's the only one that I think you would have any actual benefit from finding a loophole in.
And that's what, 60 points?
Yes. We've always
Not
said
even.
that, well, isn't it even less now?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember. We've always said that the pit display is, while visually a main element of your team,
undervalued.
It's undervalued.
Definitely.
Well, it's undervalued by the scorecard and overvalued by teams because of that dichotomy. So, I mean, when it comes to innovating in enterprise, go free for all, guys. You know, João, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, not at all. Just to say that I just checked the rule book. It's 40 points to the display. So yeah, it's very very little. So it's a thing that is valued for the teams, but not in the scoreboard at all. Mainly. So yeah, your engineering drawings and 3D renders together is the same thing in the display. And so yes, but I think like you can as you said, you can innovate in many parts. You can innovate in your verbal, you can innovate in your portfolios, you can try to find other places to innovate, and also you don't need to innovate in your car in the performance. You can innovate in the reliability of your car. You can innovate in the painting of your car. You can innovate the colors, the design, many things you can try to innovate. Then don't try to break the rules. Don't try to push the boundaries, because it's risky. You don't want to get to the competition like with a 50% chance of the judges to come and say, okay, this thing that you did is breaking the spirit of regulation. So okay, bye to 200 and so points, and okay, you cannot win anymore. So you want to try to not to be that risky. You need to ponder, like balance the risk and the rewards that you're gonna get.
But some teams are going to take that risk, you know, in the hope. And if if it does pay off, that could be a massive haul of performance and points. So yeah, it's a balancing act.
And actually, this goes back to project management.
That is a good point.
It's a risk analysis.
That's it.
And so that's something for people to consider. Matt, do you have any concluding thoughts? Anything you want to add?
Not really. I think I've covered them. I've got, I think, one final thing that I would quite like to see in next year's regs would be, in the spirit of the competition, an example of something that would pass, something that wouldn't pass. Not maybe something that's already been done. Like if they used LERS as this wouldn't pass, and then, I don't know, an innovation that I haven't picked up on that would pass.
Yeah.
That would be really great.
Because the example they give is
abuse of the technical regs.
I'll quote verbatim. For example, a team attempting to abuse the technical regulations to their advantage may, at the discretion of the chair of judges, be removed from racing and receive no points for this activity.
But even that, I mean, like, isn't that the whole point?
Yeah.
Like, to abuse the tech regs to give yourself an advantage. Isn't that the whole point of a competition?
But what's abusing the tech regs?
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Yeah.
And they say may. So it's not 100%.
That's it.
Exactly.
You may get punished. You may not.
It's a difficult balancing act from HQ's part, because picking examples like that, you're struggling against people's perceptions of how outrageous they are, I suppose. And so, yeah, it's a difficult balancing act, but I think it's something that HQ can and will be able to solve in the coming years.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Brilliantly.
Right.
Amazing.
Yes. Fabulous.
Perfect.
If you have any more thoughts on spirit of the competition, or on how the competition is going, let us know. Off the Track podcast, is that on Instagram?
It is.
And thank you for listening.